Okay, good afternoon, folks. Happy Saturday. I'm Chef David from David's Culinary Catering in Brick, New Jersey, and welcome to our live demonstration. So today, since it's such a beautiful day out, at least for today, I hear it's going to rain again tomorrow, but we're going to do some springy things today. So we're going to start off with a nice cream of asparagus soup, and we're going to make some herb crusted salmon, some sides, roasted potatoes, and some broccoli. And we're also going to do a spinach and strawberry salad. So, you guys ready? Let's get started. Actually, before we get started, I just wanted to let y'all know that we are open for business. We're doing some packages for families of 4, dinners for 2. We're doing catering trays, so it could be curbside pickup or local delivery in the Brick area. Okay, just wanted to let you all know that. Okay, so asparagus soup. Hopefully we have the recipe up, and we'll get started. So we have here, I got everything already cut up for us. So what we're going to do, we're just going to go over to the stove, and we will get started. I don't believe I got the butter. Butter's the one thing we don't have. And where did I just put that? Here we go. So we're going to take our butter, and we're going to melt it on a low to medium heat. We'll get that started. And we're going to use a wire whisk, preferably if you have a thicker, more stronger whisk, it's better for this application. Okay, so we're going to melt our butter down. And we have onions, celery, garlic, obviously asparagus. And while that's melting, let me just show you asparagus. I do like to take off the tips. We save that for garnish at the end. So we take a couple cuts. It's just not one tip. We take a couple cuts off, put them over. And then on the other side, we want to make sure that we cut off the bottom. It's a little bit woody. If you don't cut it off, it's going to be, your soup or anything you're going to make is a little bit woody. Usually, you cut it right where the green and the white meet, but some of this is pretty green already. So if you can't tell, the best way to tell is when you cut. See, this one, thicker one, is still a little bit woody, is how it goes through the asparagus. If it goes through nice and easy, then you're good. And that's how you know where to stop and cut off with your asparagus. And then we'll just cut the rest of this off. Now, if you have a food processor, you can put some of these items in the food processor, but you don't want to make it too mushy, right? Because what we want to do is we want to make sure that we expose as much of the vegetable as possible. That way you're going to get all the flavor out of it. And that's what I'm all about, is flavor. Okay? So, like I said, we have onions and celery, and we're going to add that to our pan. Turn the heat down just a little bit, but we give that a little stir. We want to add our garlic. Right, we stir that up a little bit. Now, it might look like there's a lot of butter in there, but it really isn't. We'll explain to you why a little bit. Right, and as you know, I like to season as you go. So a little salt. And since this is a asparagus, it's kind of a white type sauce or soup, I use white pepper. That way you don't see it in the soup. So we put a little bit of white pepper in there. We stir that around. See, it's looking good. What's going to happen is that salt is going to help extract the juices from the onions and the celery. So we let that cook for just a moment. I'm going to add bay leaf to that. You can always add that in the beginning of the procedure. Right now I'm talking like a doctor. We're having procedures here. So now that we cook that for about a minute or so, we can add our asparagus. So again, we're going to season that again. A little bit of salt, some white pepper. Now you have to remember when you are making an item where you're going to have a lot of ingredients and you're going to strain it, because we are going to strain this in the end, okay? You want to use a pot that's bigger than what the end volume is going to be. That way you have room to stir and make the soup or the sauce or whatever it is that you're making. All right, so we got that going. We're going to let that cook for a few minutes. So now while that's cooking, I'm going to start with the potatoes, because potatoes are going to take a longer time to cook. So we're going to do roasted potatoes. I use a red potato. So we're going to cut them in quarters. Or maybe 6, depending on how big they are. Because you want them to fit nicely on top of your plate. All right, so this one we're going to cut a little bit more. And when you cut, you want to make sure they're all the same size. So when you get a bigger potato, you want to make more cuts out of it. That way everything is going to cook evenly. You're not going to put them in the oven and have big chunks of potato that are not cooked and the little ones are overcooked. Right? Always watch your fingers, right? Pinkies out. Okay, people that drink tea and so forth, the English always pinkies out. Always make sure your pinkies are out so we don't cut ourselves. We don't want any pinky tips in our food. This is a real big potato. Whoops. It's also a rotten potato. That's no good. So we'll get rid of that. Happens sometimes. Can't see the inside. And we're going to take a look at the soup again. All right, so we want to nurture our food, right? We talk to it and we be nice to it. Okay, see, it's getting nice, bright green, looks good. So at this point in time, we can add some of our seasonings. Now, a lot of times I use fresh herbs, so I have thyme. A lot of times I'll throw the whole thyme right in there, or you can put some chopped in there. But if you're going to add your chopped fresh herbs, you always add them at the end, okay? But in this case, I got the whole thing. I just put it right in there because we're going to strain it out anyway. So that's fine. Then we have a herb called marjoram. Not margarine, not like the butter, but marjoram. Okay, and that enhances the flavor of the asparagus. It's very nice. See, we stir that up. Okay, so back to our potatoes. So we have our potatoes, and we're going to put some garlic in there, about, what's to say, about a tablespoon of garlic. And again, we have fresh herbs. I have fresh rosemary, about a tablespoon or so in there. And then we're going to put some paprika. Paprika is half the key to this. Sprinkle some paprika in there, about a tablespoon, tablespoon and a half. And then we need some oil. And we put about an eighth of a cup or so of oil. And then we just stir it up like this. All right, we make sure that everything gets incorporated, mixed up nice. And of course, if you can't do it like this, you just take a spoon and stir it up. And we're just gonna lay it on the sheet pan like this. Make sure we spread it out, okay? And you can see how it's evenly distributed. Some fresh herbs and garlic all over, paprika, and we'll pop this in the oven. About 350 or 400, depends on how hot your oven is. But roasting, more towards 400. Now we'll check out our soup again. See, we're bubbling nice. It's good. We'll turn it down just a little bit. And then I'm going to add a little bit of lemon to it. So I have a half a lemon. I'm just going to squeeze that in there. And yeah, I know the seeds just popped out. But again, we're going to strain that out so it doesn't make any difference. All right, so we squeeze that nice. And I like to just give it a nice squeeze and a roll like this. Get all the juice out. The lemon is good with the asparagus. Adds good flavor. And also going to put a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. Put a couple drops in there. We'll let that go just a moment. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to add the white wine. It's about a couple ounces of white wine. We'll turn it up a little bit so that cooks out. I like to cook with wine. Helps make things taste good. Okay, so we have that going. And then next, we need to let's see. We got we're going to do salad dressing, I think, next. No, we'll go with the salmon. But I have to get the flour. So we have flour to go into the soup. Okay, so the wine reduced down. You can see it's boiling, it's bubbling. So you're cooking the alcohol out of the wine. So don't worry about kids or anybody getting drunk off your soup, right? Now at this time, you want to turn it down a little bit because when we add the flour, we want to make sure it incorporates well with the butter. Okay, so we don't get any lumps. So basically what we're doing right now is we're making what's called a roux. And a roux is a thickening agent. And it's usually a good ratio is equal parts flour to fat. And usually we use butter. It's the most flavorful fat. So we're going to mix that up nice. Make sure it's all incorporated. Yeah, you get globby sometimes. Now it just looks like a big mess, I know. But you wait and see, it's going to be delicious. We turn it up just a little bit. So we want to cook the flour out. And we cook it out a little bit here on the direct fire, and as opposed to just, you know, adding some liquid to it. Right, because that's going to, first of all, you want to cook the flour out. One of the biggest mistakes some people make is they don't cook out flour. Flour takes at least 30 to 45 minutes to cook out. In other words, so you don't taste flour. This also gets to, the flour cooks and it turns color a little bit. It's called a blonde roux. It actually can add a little bit of flavor to your soups and sauces. So we're going to just let that cook. We'll watch it for and stir it up in another minute. Okay, so we got that. And now we're going to start, we're going to look at our salmon. So I got a few pieces of salmon here. I think we'll just have to move this stuff over. Okay, so this is what we're using for a salmon. We have butter, garlic, shallots, thyme, parsley, dill, chives, and fresh basil. Lemon, a little bit of wine. We gotta check the soup again. Right, because if you let this go too far, then all the flour is going to stick to the bottom. So you have to make sure you give it a little stir. There we go. So one of the reasons you want to use a firmer whip so you can scrape the bottom a little bit. See how it can stick a little bit. But that all comes up after we add our chicken stock to it. Which we're going to do right now. So we have chicken stock. And now I'm going to turn this off when we add the chicken stock. We're going to add half the chicken stock. Okay, and then you're going to stir this up. Because you want to incorporate it, the roux, into the stock. And that's going to help alleviate any lumps that we may have. So we stir that up. I know it kind of looks a little bit lumpy, but they're going to disappear. And we'll add the rest of our stock. Now I am using chicken stock. If you like, you can always use a vegetable broth or a vegetable stock instead. This I make, you can always use, you know, canned broth or stock, whatever. I prefer to use a low sodium because I like to be able to add the salt that I want to have and not just have the salt already in it. So now we can stir this up. Then we'll turn this back on. We're going to keep it low to medium. We do want it to come up to a boil, but we want to do that slowly. Because even though we're going to strain it, we don't want lumps from the flour. Just getting all the flour out of the whip there. Now sometimes, you know, we're going to add cream to this, and people think, oh, it's a cream soup, it's all cream. Well, it's not supposed to be all cream, right? Your soup is supposed to be, cream is just finishing it. Now, I remember I used to work at the big hotel, and I used to make about 60 gallons of this soup. So 60 gallons, yeah, I was using a couple cases of cream. But here we're just using a little bit of cream, about a cup or so of cream. And the secret to keeping your soups and your sauces creamy is to thicken it properly to a velvety consistency. So when you add cream, it just enhances that and it makes it extra creamy because it's already velvety. There we go. All right. So now back to the salmon. So we have shallots. If anybody doesn't know what a shallot is, shallot looks like this. It's kind of a cross between a garlic and onion. When I use shallots, I like to use a smaller knife because obviously it's a smaller vegetable. So you use the appropriate tool for what you have. And then you cut it just like you cut an onion. And then here we want it a small diced, which makes it more the reason why you want a thinner knife to do that. So you just want to cut down like this, just like we cut onions. Turn it over like that. And you just gotta make sure you hold it together and you get small pieces like this, okay? So we do have butter. So I like to take a little bit of butter that we have and I spread it on the pan. Right, and then I take our shallots and I put the shallots on the butter. You see that or no? All right, so like this, we spread that, and we take our salmon, we put our salmon right on top of the shallots. Like that. All right. Let's go take a look at our potatoes. Be right back. You always just want to give them a little shake halfway through cooking. Okay, so we have this. We're going to do a little salt and pepper on top of our salmon. Just do a little sprinkle. Again, we use white pepper. Now this is a crusted. So what I do is, and I know the recipe says it's a compound butter. It's not quite a compound butter. Compound butter is a lot of butter with a little bit of ingredients. This is kind of like the opposite. It's a lot of ingredients with just a little bit of butter. But you want to have that butter. You want the butter to be soft, right? So see, so you can smash that butter. You want it soft. Then we're just going to add all of our ingredients, right? So we got our garlic, got our thyme, parsley, a little bit of fresh dill, right? I like to use all the fresh ingredients. If you don't have access to fresh ingredients, you can certainly use the dry ingredients. But again, it makes it fresher. People can tell the difference. They know it's fresh. So with this, we're just going to mix this up and it's going to kind of form a paste. See, with a compound butter, it's mostly butter. But this, we want it pasty. And by doing this, it's going to help all the herbs to stay on top of the fish and not just fall off or anything like that. It helps keep it nice. See, it's nice and it's pasty. Beautiful. Right, and smell it. We have smell-o-vision here? No, I don't think so. But it smells fresh. So what we're going to do is with our lemon, we're going to put some lemon on the fish. Right, most fish, lemon goes well with fish. So I'm just going to squeeze a little bit of lemon. It's okay if the seeds fall. You just don't want the seeds on top of the fish, like that one, right? And then what we do is we just take this. Sometimes we have to use our hands and our fingers. But if you're at home, it's okay because everybody's in the family, right? We want to spread this around a little bit. Remember, it's not really going to fall off. But you certainly don't want to have it all mounded up either in one spot. Because when you eat it, you want to get even flavor throughout. Okay. So now remember, this is an interactive demonstration. So if anybody has any questions or comments they want to, you're welcome to type in. There's some place on there that you can type in your questions or your comments. Be happy to answer anything as we're doing this. All right. There's enough playing there. And we just, we have the white wine. We put the white wine. We just cook it in the white wine. And just a little bit of extra lemon juice. And then we pop it in the oven. We'll check our soup. All right, our soup is coming up. So it's a little bit thick. So we're just going to thin it down with a little bit of water. There we go. Looks good. Just a little bit more. So we might have to adjust that recipe. Maybe a little bit less flour, right? Because that's really all a recipe is. A recipe is just a guideline. It's a guide to what you need to do. You know, most of my recipes I have, it's just a list of ingredients. And then I figure out how much I need for how much I'm making. And of course I know when and how to do the procedure. So there's no written instructions on what I do. So when I write them for you guys, sometimes they're not perfect. I have to go back by memory and figure out how much I'm doing. So now we're at a good consistency, right? But be careful you don't spill it on your stove, because then you got to clean it up. There we go. Beautiful. All right. Good. So we got the salmon in the oven. We have the Potatoes in the oven.
I want to know where the best place to get salmon is, fresh salmon.
The best place to get fresh salmon. Well, if you, depending on where you live, if you live in someplace near the shore, a fresh fish market is certainly a good place to get fresh fish. The grocery store usually has fresh fish. You know, a lot of times, you know, the market is actually getting the fish from the fishermen. So it could be a lot fresher than going to the supermarket where they're just buying it from a big conglomerate who's out fishing, and they package it and then they ship it all over the place. So there's fish markets, obviously up and down the Jersey Shore, there's lots of fish markets. Every town almost has, you know, a little fish market that you can go to and get fresh fish. Salmon right now is is abundant. We have I see it around a lot, even through this pandemic that we're going through. It's really not a seasonal fish. We can usually get it all the time. So that's where I would get my salmon from. And so we're going to start with a little bit of a salad dressing. We are going to do a spinach and strawberry salad, but we're going to look at the soup again. Right, so we see it starting, it's simmering, right? Simmering is about 180 degrees, right? We all know that boiling is 212. So simmering is 180 degrees, 180, 185 degrees. And what that is, it's the little bubbles that you see all around the edges. I don't know if you guys can, if we can see, but you see how it just bubbles around the edge? So that's a simmer. And that's where you want anything that's cooking for a period of time to be at. You don't want it to be at a hard boil, but yet you still want it to be cooking. So at 180 degrees, things are cooking. And that's where you want to keep your soup at. And then you like I said, you have to nurture it. You have to talk to it, be nice to it, and keep it stirred up where it doesn't stick on the bottom. Okay, so we have spinach salad coming up. Got nice fresh spinach. Oh, that's the wrong one. Look at that. I seem to have lost my my prep for spinach salad. Okay. This is part of it. We have some onions, right? We have some sesame seeds. We're going to make the dressing. So we have some red onion, some sesame seeds. We'll put some poppy seeds. Now I'm making this as a vinaigrette. If you put this into a food processor or a blender or something and you puree the onions and everything, it'll emulsify a little bit, so it'll be a little bit thicker. And let me just go grab, oh, here we go. See that? I knew I had it somewhere. Always losing stuff. So now I use a raspberry vinegar, right? It's a raspberry vinaigrette. Now, if you don't have raspberry vinegar, and maybe you have access to raspberries, you can just take some raspberries and puree them, and then just use a red wine vinegar. Okay, let me just, I need to grab a whisk. Okay, stories. So we're going to whisk this up. We're going to take a little bit of oil. I don't know your stories. And some salt and pepper. So this is nice and springy. a little bit of salt, a little bit of black pepper. Here I will use the black pepper. This is very popular in the summertime. You get some nice fresh strawberries. The strawberries look really nice. So the salad, we got the spinach, put some strawberries, usually about one strawberry per person. Some almonds, toasted almonds. Now you can toast almonds dry and just put them in the oven, or you can do them in a pan dry, or you can do it with butter. Take a little butter, melt some butter, toss some almonds in there and toss it, and that's comes out really good too. But we're doing dry today. I got a little feta cheese, a little bit of red onions. Notice the red onions I cut small, bite size, right? Story. We'll whisk this up nice. So remember the ratio for salad dressing is about 1/4 to 1/3 vinegar. And this is really very simple. Now you can also add a little bit of Dijon mustard to this. That works well. You can put a little splash of Worcestershire sauce. I had some Worcestershire sauce. Here we go. You could put a little dash in there too. There we go, a little dash of that. How many stories? And then we just like that. And again, just dressing should be just coating your lettuce or your spinach or whatever it may be. You don't want to drown it because it's just an enhancement of flavor instead of things being just dry. All right. See, it comes up nice and colorful. Got that there. Wash my hands. We'll check our soup. Sometimes it gets hot. You keep the your whip in there. So our soup's been cooking now for a little bit. Remember I said to cook out your flour at least a half an hour, maybe a little bit more. So see, then at this point, we add our cream. All right, so this little bit of cream to that much soup, it's not really a lot. It's like sometimes people, you know, they say, well, is there butter in there or something? And I say, yeah. And then, you know, they're worried about fat content or cholesterol, whatever. So, you know, one time I was doing this party and I had a whole tray of chicken. And someone says, is there any butter in that sauce? And I said, so yes, there's butter in the sauce. And they're like, oh, I can't eat that. I said, well, wait a second. I says, there's about maybe a half a stick of butter in that whole pan. So by the time somebody takes a portion of a full pan of food, like how much butter are you really having? Maybe a teaspoon or something? And, you know, I mean, unless you really have an issue with butter, you know, but 1 teaspoon of butter in one dish is really not too bad. Okay? So that little bit of cream in this pot of soup, it isn't terrible. You know, so if people are worried about the fat content and stuff of cream, it's not really that much. Again, there are places that will take a whole bunch of cream, right? They'll add cream to it, they'll add asparagus to it, they'll thicken it a little bit, and they'll say, here's cream of asparagus soup. But as you can see, that's not what we've done. And if you look at this, see, it's nice, it's green, got that green hue to it, and it's creamy. And we're gonna strain this. I'm gonna show you what it looks like. We're gonna strain a little bit of this, and you're gonna see. And you can tell a little bit when the flour's cooked out also, is that it's shiny, right? I don't know if you can see, but there's a shine to that. And that's one of the ways that you can tell that your flour is cooked out. It gives that nice shine to it. And it always looks good to have a shine. So let me just get a strainer real quick. We're gonna strain that. Of course, we have to bring it up to a boil because you have to bring that cream up, right? So you bring it up a little bit because you want to bring it up to a boil so that you're going to kill any germs or bacteria. Not that there's any germs or bacteria in it, but you're adding something that's either room temperature or cold to something hot. Now you're changing the temperature of the cream, not so much the soup. So you want to make sure that that cream temperature comes up to kill anything that might decide that wants to start growing inside your soup. And as you can see, it starts to simmer right there. Usually when you come up to 165 to 180 degrees, that's going to kill almost any bacteria that is about to grow. So we're going to turn that off. I'm just going to go and check out those potatoes. All right, so here's the potatoes. They're looking good, right? Now we're going to just, we'll strain the soup. Now some people will adjust their seasonings while it's still hot, which is okay. Some people will adjust their seasonings after they strain it. Doesn't matter, but I am going to add that fresh thyme right now. So here's that fresh thyme. And we really don't have to worry about the time of, get it, thyme. But as soon as fresh herbs, the heat is in contact with the fresh herbs, it releases their flavor. Okay, and that's one of the reasons why you don't need to add your fresh herbs in the beginning, okay, because all it takes is a little bit of heat and then it releases its flavor. So we have our strainer, we have our soup here, and we're just going to pour that right in there. Every once in a while, needs a little bit of help. Now, sometimes when, you know, if you are going to puree your asparagus, which is good, right? And you do this, and I know this could be a pain, right? You can also get a strainer with bigger holes. That's fine. And then it strains easier. But now you take a look at that. You can see it's shiny. It's nice and velvety. Looks beautiful. And then you little smell-o-vision there. Smells perfect. All right, then we grab a spoon. Oh, sorry about that. We're going to get a spoon. We'll give it a little taste. Beautiful. Yep. Now, so the garnish, It depends. Some people actually like a crunchy garnish. Okay, you leave it raw. You can add it right before you serve it, or you blanch it. Okay, so what blanching is just hard cooking something. Okay, we can blanch that real quick. We'll turn the heat on, put a little bit of water in there, a touch of salt. All right, so all blanching is taking anything actually, and you part cook it, and then you stop the cooking process. Okay, so a lot of times with vegetables, that's how we get vegetables prepared for service and for banquets and things like that. Is you take a whole bunch of broccoli or asparagus, whatever, and you part cook it, then you stop the cooking process, and then you reheat it again. It's kind of like when you cook your pasta and you cook it really with a real bite to it. So by the time you reheat it, it is al dente and beautiful, right? So that water is boiling, and then you just take those pieces right there, give it a little shake like that, and it doesn't take much for that asparagus to come up. Right, and so what we'll do is we're going to take some of the soup. Or put some soup in the bowl. And you take a little bit of that asparagus. Usually you'll strain it, right? And you just put a little bit of asparagus on top. And right there, you got some beautiful asparagus soup. So that's one dish that we have for today. What? Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry about that, folks. I have to, I guess, be a little bit more prepared. Gotta get used to doing this. Okay. So let me get the salmon. We're gonna plate that up. So I got the potatoes here. And we got some salmon over here. Right? And we have that there. And then we're gonna get our salad. We're just gonna grab a pair of tongs. And we toss this nice. And we're just gonna plate this up. Right? And we see how the dressing is just nice coated. We'll make sure we have some on top of there. And there's our demo for the day. Herb crusted salmon, roasted potatoes, spinach salad, and then we have our asparagus soup. What do you think, guys? Looks good, no? Any questions?
Looks great. Give them a little bit.
Okay. So, again, so I'm Chef David from David's Culinary Catering here in Brick, New Jersey. www.davidsculinarydelights.com, 609-402-6281. If you want to contact, that is the phone number. Email is david@davidsculinarydelights.com. Any questions or comments or If there's anything that you would like to see in the coming episodes that we have, please shoot me an email, and then I'll see if I can incorporate that into our plan. And again, we do catering, we do family meals, and then when all this is over, we host parties, we do murder mystery dinners. I had a bourbon dinner scheduled. Unfortunately, that was canceled. So we do all kinds of great stuff here in Brick.